when we look at, a family that would have been starting out in my boots in 1971, houses have increased in square footage by 61% since that point in time. And if I think about people that I know that were my age in 1971, I don't think that they were harmed by having smaller homes. I think they did just fine. And similarly, the per person square footage that we have inside our homes has increased by 91% since 1971. So if we look at, say, like Tim's grandmother grew up in a 20 by 24 house with 11 people in it. And if you divide that square footage by the number of people, it's less square footage that Tim and I will have in our tiny house. And Tim's grandparents are some of the best people in the world. And I think that, yeah, they weren't harmed by having not a lot of square footage per person. So yeah, before I jump into this, actually, let's just go back for a second. Once I started going down this rabbit hole, like, remember, I'm a geologist. I'm not an urban planner. I'm not an architect. But when I started jumping into this, it was like going down a rabbit hole. Like when you start asking yourself questions about why does my life look like this? Why was this choice made? And you realize that you weren't actively participating in any of those choices. Those choices were made by industry, by government, by standards that you don't even know who created. You really start questioning every facet of your life. And then I realized, look, I guess my friends were probably getting kind of sick of it, and they connected me to other friends who were architects and planners who were like willing to chat about that kind of stuff. So I met really incredible people like Grant and Wendy who are in the room today. And, a brilliant planning department in St. John's who gave me lots of insight further than what I could find on the internet. So yeah, not only did I start questioning the variables inside one home, I started questioning the variables of an entire neighborhood. So if we look at a standard neighborhood that we would see, anywhere in North America these days, it kind of looks like this. You'll notice that the design aims to standardize, and that is to reduce the cost for at-scale developments, right? The layout prioritizes vehicles and utilities. Conveniently accessible communal space is the road. We don't hang out on the road. And this design also minimizes walking distance between our mode of transportation, our car, and our dwelling. So if you really start looking at like human behavior and movement, in this kind of setup, we come home from work, we get out of our car, we go to the front door, we stay trapped inside our home all day or all evening, we come back, we get in our car, we go to work. We're not really interacting with a lot of people, right? So comparing that to what we came from just 1 or 2 generations ago, still in living memory, the design of a community like this, instead of standardizing, it's aiming to meet the unique needs of the families who live there. The layout is prioritizing the landscape and natural human movements and behavior. The conveniently accessible communal space is all the interstitial space in between the homes. There's boardwalks, there's walking paths, there's immediately surrounding green space that everyone can access. And this is a walkable community with no day-to-day reliance on cars. So while a lot of people, especially people from my parents' generation, will look back at this picture and, to be blunt, like, they think of poverty when they see this picture, because being real, like, people from my parents' generation and like Tim's parents' generation, they had it pretty tough compared to we did when we were growing up. Tim's parents won't eat rabbit because they ate a lot of it growing up, right? So there's realities around that in terms of our perspectives, but if we dig into it from a design perspective, we can really see like the benefits that people didn't even realize were going on in this kind of setup.